Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. I must apologize if things are a little different. I had to reshoot this video, so let's start from where I was talking about for this one. This is a BESM and anime review video. Now, I'm actually going into some very popular series that I'm reviewing this time, rather than just going into ones from a certain season or ones that I think are classics in my view, or I enjoy them very much. I'm just going into some ones that are very popular. Now, again, I actually have seen a lot of all three of these series, and they are ongoing in a way. I'm going to go through Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece. Hey, they're the big three. Now, unfortunately, Bleach, the anime has stopped, and the manga, it sounds like it might be ending. For Naruto, the manga has ended, and the anime is doing its best to keep going for as long as possible. And for One Piece, both are going pretty strong still, and will probably not stop for the foreseeable future. But let's just dive right into it and go into One Piece. So, for those of you that do not know, One Piece is a world of pirates. It's a pirate anime. In this world, Gold D. Roger, he was the king of pirates, and he had amassed this treasure known as One Piece. He was captured by the Navy and eventually executed. And upon his execution, he let people know that should they follow in his footsteps, they would possibly be able to find One Piece themselves and become king of the pirates. So it began this age of pirates where people were journeying to gain this treasure. So it's sort of, we meet our main character, Monkey D. Luffy. He becomes the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. He assembles this team of people that become his pirate crew. And he keeps looking for more people, like he's looking for different roles that he wants on his ship. And he keeps assembling new people and his crew becomes more powerful, increases as he goes on these journeys dealing with other pirates, like rivals, people that he don't like what they're doing. He also deals with the Navy, deals with what's going on in whatever location he's going to. Like if he ends up in his place, he has to deal with whatever problems are there, and sort of helps resolve them in an interesting and possible way, but also sort of like, he always lives up to the, the fantastical pirate spirit, I'd call it. Like, the fantasy pirate that people often imagine, he often lives up to that. So, in this world, there are devil's fruit. Devil's fruit are these, fruit that there is only one of every kind at any time, and when someone eats it, they gain special powers. Luffy has that he can stretch his arm. He's a rubber man. He can stretch his entire body because he's basically made of rubber. Now, this is a pirate anime, but I'm not using pirate as one of the words to describe the genres because that's a little too obvious for any of these. I'm going to be using action-adventure. They go on, all these animes are really action-adventure ones, that they go on traveling, they have all these action-based fights, battling it out with enemies. But this one also, it's very much more comedy than the rest of them. It has very good comedic elements, and Luffy's sort of just attitude and the way he does things often ends up in comedic situations, but sort of like you always expect him to do that sort of thing. He always keeps true to himself, but unfortunately when he's true to himself, he's kind of an idiot at times, but it's sort of like the idiot in the kind of funny sort of way. But it's also very fanciful. It's a world of of special powers where people also gain other abilities over the time, and other people have abilities and combat techniques. Like Zoro has mastered ridiculous sword techniques that normal people wouldn't know. In the same way, of course, all the devil fruit users have very fanciful powers, and it's a world of very, very interesting races like mermaids and giants, and they've just introduced in the manga and anime, there's animal people. It's got this sort of very interesting fantasy tones to this fanciful age of pirates almost. So next I want to talk about Naruto. Naruto is it's a ninja one, a ninja anime. It's a world of ninjas. And in it there are 5 great nations that have ninja villages in them. They're known as the Shinobi Nations, and each one has a hidden village in it. Now, of course, there are ninjas throughout the world, but these are the 5 nations that have very big ninja power based in it, and each one has a hidden village. Our story takes place in the hidden village of Fire, and here we meet Uzumaki Naruto, our main character. Now, he's a young ninja. He's in training at the beginning of the series, and the series takes place watching him throughout his time. Now, the thing that's unique about him, which we learned in the first episode, is that he has the 9 Tails Fox spirit sealed in him. Now, the tailed beasts, which they do talk about in the series, are basically almost considered weapons of mass destruction that each of the villages try to control. And they often do that by sealing them inside people like Naruto. Now, the way it's sealed is just keeping him away, because it was his father and his mother that sealed the beast away inside him. They passed away during this time, and a lot of people died because the thing was attacking the village, the Nine-Tails Fox Spirit. So a lot of people sort of have this grudge against the kid, even though the third Hokage has basically disallowed it. Now, the Hokage is the leader of the village. Naruto's father was the fourth Hokage. So he has this like sort of legacy that he tries to live up to a little bit, but he doesn't also know a lot about the legacy because he was never raised by his parents. And people just sort of shunned him. And sort of in the first episode, he earns the respect of one of his teachers, and it sort of goes from there that he begins to like become a member of the village and eventually start to be able to use the abilities from the nine-tailed fox. And he gets like mentors from the village, and they do have a sort of time skip here. I do have to say they have a large chunk of filler episodes in the anime when they went from the normal sort of season to the time skipped version, which the manga didn't have at all. They just went from point A to point B. The anime, just to make it go longer, had like 100 episodes. So, I mean, the anime got really far behind the manga. A good amount that they didn't catch up, and they didn't have to have so much filler in the new one. Naruto Shippuden, which is really the sequel to normal Naruto. So I'm actually talking about both of these technically, and they're added together as when you consider how many episodes Naruto has. So this is all about him learning the history, making friends, going on adventures that have to deal with the world of ninjas. And the series does go to a very interesting and very nice climax. They actually have been doing another manga series that's a sequel to the original one that's taking place in the next generation. So it's Naruto's son. And, you know, that's where we're headed to in the series. So anyway, let's describe it. It's an action-adventure again. They go out on missions that usually have these, like, some of them are small, some of them are these long-winded quests that they run into problems, that they actually, like, learn about themselves, things like that. I'd call this one a very much more sort of fantasy setting. It's this weird mix of, like, some certain technologies that exist around now and other ones that they don't have. You think they would have, and that's this sort of basic setting of the world, but all the ninjas have very interesting powers. They use jutsus, and so it's more than just like fighting it out, throwing stars, things like that. They're very fantasy ninjas. They're not like the traditional actual ninja sort of view. They have ridiculous abilities. Like a lot of them can wield elemental effects and like do like create fire, create water, things like that, which are just a little ridiculous, but you know, you sort of accept it in this world here very easily. And unlike the One Piece where I didn't comp out, I'm going to comp out a little bit here on Naruto because, I mean, it has its comedic elements, but I wouldn't call it a comedy the same way that One Piece does very well its comedy. It's not as spot on. It doesn't exist as much. So I do call this one ninja. That's the problem. The difference between the pirates and the ninja sort of groups is there's not as many of the pirate sort of animes. Ninja animes show up a lot, so I can almost call ninja more of a genre and can define it as one because it shows up so much more. Because ninja shows up at this greater degree than than pirates ever do. And so the last one I then want to talk about is Bleach. Now Bleach takes place in a modern world setting, but we're focusing on the Shikigami, or Soul Reapers. These are beings which exist that are sort of spiritual beings which protect humanity from evil spirits or hollows, and also guide the souls of the dead to the next life. The next existence. Now, they're based out of this group called the Soul Society, which is in itself is another like sort of plane of existence, but all the Shikigami exist there and sort of base out of that, traveling to the real world to protect it. Now, then we meet Ichigo Kurosaki, who's got sort of this, always had this incredible spiritual sense, so he sort of can see spirits and things like that, and he encounters a Soul Reaper, and basically, because of encounter with one, and helping it out, he gains Soul Reaper powers. So he himself becomes a Soul Reaper and can start doing abilities, with those abilities starts doing the basic Soul Reaper combat and things like that, and gets into helping out people. Now the series expands greatly from that. We learn things about Ichigo and why he had such powerful spiritual sense and why it passed down in his family. We kind of meet other people around him that are originally just his friends that get involved with it. We actually then end up, dealing with the Soul Society and learning at first they're sort of antagonistic towards Ichigo, but eventually he sort of like comes to agreement with them, pretty much through force in a way, just by showing off his abilities, and eventually getting more powerful himself too. That he kind of unlocks new levels of abilities and things like that, and evolves throughout the series. And the anime has ended at a certain arc. The manga has actually kept going for an entire another arc, which actually has been going on for some time. I haven't read into that arc, but it's like one big story arc that's been like the new big one, and it's been going on for like a couple of years now, but I have not kept up with Bleach. It's one of the ones I want to get back into reading. Just because I did finish watching the series. I keep up with all of these series. I actually do. I keep watching all of them, even when the fillers are pretty bad. And I keep up with the mangas that are released for One Piece and Naruto very well, but Bleach I have not kept up with. And I do want to get back into finishing it. But getting back to talking about Bleach, and eventually his friends and stuff, and he gets a bunch of allies that do gain abilities too, and they sort of form this team that does things together. Anyway, so let's move on to talking about the genres of Bleach. So again, it's another action adventure. He has these like things that happen, that he has this entire overarching storylines where he's traveled things like the Soul Society to the land of the Hollows, where they sort of presided when they're not attacking humanity. He goes there, he has combats with people, he has these epic battles, things, that he needs to do, defeats people, defeats enemies, sort of upgrades himself over and over again. I would call this sort of a split between a fantasy and a supernatural, and that's one of the ones I want to like sort of. It's a hard one to define. It's got the supernatural tones from like evil spirits and Shikigami, which are like they're basically like a version of the Grim Reaper. It's more of like an Asian version of the Grim Reaper as the Shikigami. So it's that, and it's like dark spirits, and you're dealing with that, and that's more of a supernatural tone. But they take it in a more fanciful way that like. The Shikigami have ridiculous powers based upon their swords, that they can kind of evolve their abilities and evolve their sword in very interesting and strange ways. And that they have like all these powers, and then even the Hollows sort of can evolve themselves. And then you fight other groups that have like abilities of their own, which almost have this like sort of fanciful tone to this supernatural element. Again, this is also another one that has a big hint of comedy to it. I did want to say that, though, again, I'm using probably more fantasy and supernatural as the other two words, but I do want to mention that it does have these comedy overtones that exist there, that they have like sort of little comic relief for certain things, and they always break a little of the tension with it, which actually can help sometimes when it doesn't overpower you with the very like, intense sort of action drama moments. So anyway, so that's it for today. These are the series I wanted to go over. I've talked about them. I've let you know what the basic information you need to know about One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach to either get started in watching them or to know a little bit about them to start looking into making your BESM worlds. The video after this one, which I have already recorded, they will both go up at the same time. Anyway, it will detail using these worlds in your BESM games. Anyway, so that's it for today. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I missed, leave it in the comments below. Please like this video. It's a great way of showing your support for the channel and the Empire. Please subscribe if you already haven't. We're always looking for more members, more citizens of the Empire. And please share this video. If you know anybody that would learn anything from this or wouldn't just enjoy watching it. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.